Ash, I want to start with tell me, as the font of knowledge about the online fitness industry, tell me the current state of play and what people need to be aware of going forward.
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I'm going to say the AI thing, but it's not what people think with it. I think from an online fitness industry point of view, AI has having a big impact, and it's going to have a bigger impact over the next coming few years. I think what's basically happening is a shift, and we're starting to get effectively AI trainers and coaches online. And I think people that are just, and we kind of talked about this before, like if people are just giving workouts and adapting them and giving nutrition and adapting them and just using data to make changes and things like that, then I think they're really going to struggle from an online perspective because AI is already doing it better, faster and quicker and cheaper than they could possibly ever do it. And there's more and more companies, big names, who are pre-installing these things on phones and devices that are already going to do the same job as any other PT can do online. So unless you bring another level to that, it becomes another form of competition. And I think what that basically does is then put you in competition with people that have huge budgets, like literally millions and millions a month type budgets on this kind of thing. So that means you have to find ways of standing out, which is no different to what we've always had to do. But it just means you've got a different level of competition there. And it means that the quality of your service and how you deliver that needs to change into more of a coaching approach than what it does a kind of trainer style approach. So I think that's going to be a much bigger, more profound shift, which I think is a good thing. I think what it will actually do is it will increase the quality of coaches that are out there. So I think that's quite a good thing. And people that are kind of at the other end where they're just trying to pump out information to them, that's going to become less and less. There's going to be less and less people doing that because they're going to struggle to be successful at that level. I think the other thing again with AI is putting more on the negative side. In like one breath, I'm saying it's going to increase the quality, but that's more of a long-term thing. I think in the short term, it's actually going to reduce the quality of most trainers. I think what's happening at the moment is a lot of people are becoming very reliant on AI to help them with how they develop the programs, how they build their stuff, how they respond to clients, and so on. And AI is great; it does the job, but it's still not you. And what it's doing is they're becoming very reliant on that information that's being given to them to speed up that process to help support them. So I think because of that, we're not doing what we used to do. And I can probably remember back in the day where if a client asked something, you go and research it, you maybe find an article or you'd use that or you'd ask them certain questions to dig deeper. That's not really happening, I'm noticing anymore. A lot of coaches, a lot of trainers are trying to use AI to give them their answers and support them. And they're not really thinking for themselves. And I think in the short term, that's going to have an impact. But as I mentioned earlier, as time goes on, as this divide becomes bigger, then people that are doing that are going to fall into the background. And the people that are actually coaching, actually having that human element and being human and creating that human connection, they're the ones that are actually going to thrive from an online coaching perspective.
How profound do you think it is going to be?
Quite big. I think there's going to be a big, yeah, I think it would be pretty
Do you
big.
think
I
it's
think,
happening already?
yeah, definitely. It's starting to happen. It's happening slower than what I would have thought. I thought it might have happened a bit quicker. I think the first bit I mentioned around people's quality of delivery and how they're coaching people, I think is definitely changing. Um, I mean, I'm not just talking in this industry as well. You can see it everywhere. Like you can see it in content. If you just go online and go onto any kind of social media platform,
Are you
it's
on LinkedIn?
ridiculous amounts. Yeah, you can see it's all there. But that's changing people's ability to write. It's changing the people's ability to create. Like this creative nature of us as humans is becoming stagnated because we've got something else that's now doing that creativity for us, and that has other impacts as well. So you can definitely see it happening across the board. But I think this divide between AI trainers and coaches is definitely starting to happen more and more and more. And I think it will become more prevalent over the next couple of years, purely just because some of the bigger brands are going to start installing that kind of stuff into their apps more, um, which means it becomes a new area you have to compete against. And you shouldn't be competing against that. But unfortunately, a lot of trainers are competing against that unless they start making this shift.
Do you think they're aware?
Probably
Like,
not.
because when you say this stuff, I don't know if I'm a little bit out of the loop with, even what you're saying about people using AI to coach well, not coach a client, but to give
Yeah.
feedback. Like, maybe I'm just out of the loop. It's just not my style. It's not something that I would
Mhm.
specifically do. But is that what people are doing then more and more? Like, they're actually using AI, I guess, chatbots to
Yeah.
answer client questions?
Yeah, kind of. So like you have some that will do, and I'll just see this from people, the questions that we get asked. So we get asked questions from coaches about, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you implement this? And like from a technical perspective, yes, you can do all that kind of stuff. You can literally have your own,
And are you getting asked by personal trainers
yeah, to do this. Yeah,
if you can insert a chatbot to answer client questions?
yeah. I mean, we can literally build an AI powered chatbot that can represent you, as in like it can sound like you, talk like you. It can't officially say it's you because you're not really allowed to do that, but you can have, so it understands you. You can give it its criteria. You can give it its limits of what it's allowed to say and where it can go to and how to respond. You can teach all this kind of stuff to it, so that can handle a lot of the questions and stuff that come through. But it's a bit more than that sometimes. Like for example, I know people who are doing check-ins now and they're getting numbers of clients in, and there's a lot of pressure, isn't there, to try and do stuff quick and to a lot of pressure to market, a lot of pressure to do whatever. So what they're doing is they'll take the check-ins and they'll literally copy and paste it into something like ChatGPT and say, give me some feedback on this and what would you do? And then that then dictates how the response is given back to the client. So they'll copy and paste that in. They might tweak it a little bit, but they'll do it. They might give it a once over and check it, but they're using it to speed up the process. Now, there's nothing technically wrong with that. The only thing that's going to cause a problem for is the ability to look at that and assess it yourself, because you're no longer as the coach assessing it. You're basically just taking someone else's assessment, checking it, tweaking it. But I think from a cognitive point of view, like you don't develop that way. So the less and less you do of that, the worse and worse they're going to become at it. And I think that's one of the biggest issues we're going to have. And there's a lot of coaches asking for that kind of thing, like adapting workouts automatically, auto-progressing based information going in. Again, it's fine, but that's not coaching. And if that's all you're offering and you're charging even £100 a month for it, like, why would you pay that when I can get it free on my iPhone? Like, that's the problem. And I think that's where we're starting to get to now. And I just wish coaches would, and I say this to them when they ask these questions, like, we can do it, technically you can do it, but I just think you're setting your business up for failure in the near future,
Do
because
they listen to you?
some do, some don't. Some people just go, yeah, that's AI, it's never going to do that. AI can't do that. I'm like, you have to remember something about AI. This is the worst it's ever going to get. What I mean by that, this is the crappiest that the power of AI is. And it's getting better exponentially and exponentially and exponentially. And it's not just happening in terms of that industry as well. Like I'll talk about, obviously we have a lot of involvement with different apps and things like that, and we'll build out software for people, we'll build out P2D from and so on like that. But if we even look at software itself, so if you look at CRMs, you look at coaching software and so on, all that's prefixed stuff that's built and you pay X amount a month for going to do it. Yet already there's AI software out there where I can literally create a prompt, and as long as you kind of know what you're doing with this prompting, within a matter of minutes, I can have a completely custom built coaching software I can deliver to my clients exactly how I want it to be. Look how I want it to do what I want it to do, no bloat, nothing. I could do that with CRMs, I could do it with anything else in minutes, and I can adapt it.
Let me get my head around this.
And I can do it cheaper as well.
Let me get my head around it. So if we say took a software that you and I might know that's for personal trainers that remains
Yep.
just because we like the people that own it. And if we took them back, say, 8 years to like a version 1.0 or version 2.0 or whatever, not what it is now, but what it was 8 years ago, you could build something better than that with not the same costs and not the same time of build. Would that be right?
I could do it for about, in all honesty, I could do it for about $25 a month for a limited number of clients in about 20 minutes.
So how is like software as a service, how are they going to survive this?
That's the thing. It's going to be an industry thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, like I'm saying that like obviously more of like a shock thing. Like this can happen right now, and people can do that. But I think if we go back to like the .com boom, when everyone had like a website and stuff like that, back then you had people that were building websites, and you're paying, at the time 10 grand, which is probably the equivalent of like 20 grand these days, or whatever it would have been, 30 grand these days. A lot of money to have these really elaborate websites to do all these different things. And compared to modern day websites that you can build on like Wix, still terrible in comparison for design and user flow and everything like that. And that was fine. And then basically what happened is companies came along and they came up with like drag and drop style websites, the ability to be able to help the everyday person build something. And the difference then was not about whether you could build it or not technically. It was about the ability to make it function properly. So what became more important was, what's the user interface going to be like? What's the user design going to be like? How's someone going to experience that when they first get on it? What's the best way to make it flow from a conversion point of view? What's the best way to make it be more readable from an SEO point of view? So these questions weren't technical in nature as such. They were more around actually the design itself and how you approach something. So it's a bit more creative and things like that. And what that actually happened was then is that happened, people were trying to do it, and some people brought out some terrible websites because they're building it themselves, they didn't really know all that kind of stuff. But what that did is open up a gap in the market where companies could come along, these developers, these designers, and go, well, actually, we can now build these websites at a really, really high standard because we've got this technology. But we know the flow, we know how people think, we know how this stuff is supposed to work together, what's the best way to convert, what's the best experience for them. But we can create it now at a tenth of the cost that these developers were doing like a few years ago. And that's what happened when like the likes of, Wix and backend builders for WordPress and all that stuff came out. And I think a similar thing's happening now with software. I think you won't be able to go in there, any person, and go, I've got these great ideas. I guarantee if you do that, it'll be an absolute mess, because you need the experience to understand how to build something like that from a user perspective. But the difference is now, instead of having to have a big development team that you'll be spending hundreds of thousands for, you've now got an AI development team that can help adapt and adjust and build stuff for you in a few minutes. So you become the project manager for that AI team, and that's effectively what's happening. So I think what will happen is you'll have companies that will come along, you'll start seeing more no-code developers, no-code AI developers come along, a bit like what happened in the website world, where people came along and built on these other drag-and-drop type platforms. And I think we'll see more and more of that allows us to create this. And then the cost really is going to be in supporting that. Now, you might say how these other softwares are going to survive. The biggest way they're going to survive is the support and their understanding of that. Like, they know how to build something to work for individuals. They know what works and what doesn't. And the other side is support. If something does go wrong, like as a coach, like you maybe can't be bothered to deal with like a technical thing, which is not difficult. You go in there and you tell the AI this is what the problem is. I mean, you can literally copy and paste the support ticket into it and it will find it and fix it for you. But that's something you might not want to do. So that's where these companies are going to come into play. It's going to be more about how they can support their users, how they can keep on top of things, how they can adapt stuff and publish stuff and redo things quickly. And that's not just for coaching software. I'm talking across the board here. That's going to be the same for every software. And I think that's going to be a new era we're going to go into from the tech side of things. So when you say about changes in the industry, I think there's going to be changes all over the place. I think there's going to be changes from a coaching perspective and how we have to do that. From how we market as well, that's going to be a big change. Marketing is going to be very, very different the next few years, I think. And also from a...
Different in what way?
So if you look how people interact with stuff now, we're noticing more and more in terms of how people's attention span's a hell of a lot less than what it used to be. And there's reasons for that. And a lot of that's actually down to, well, there's other things. It's how we absorb information. So if you think about how as a species we're supposed to absorb information and get when we learn something new, when we do something exciting, we release dopamine, don't we? Dopamine to make us feel good or feel bad or whatever, like these dopamine curves. And we're supposed to like slowly release dopamine and then that slowly dips down at the end of it. And when we do that, we have better focus throughout the day. Obviously, people have different dopamine levels depending whether they've got medical issues or whatever. But generally speaking, we all have this curve of dopamine. Now, the problem is when we have how we receive news now, like it's very quick and instant. How we receive social media, it's like shorts. It's very quick, instant information all the time with hooks. And each one of those will actually spike dopamine quickly. And the problem is when you spike dopamine quickly, you get a quick drop. And that's actually reducing people's attention spans. Now that's been happening now for a long period of time, and you can start to notice that in terms of how people are actually interacting with things, especially online. So how they interact with ads, with content, and so on. So their attention span is a lot less. They want to be pulled around to different places. They'll want to watch TV, listen to something on the radio or the music, and be on the phone at the same time, which is ridiculous when you think about it. But that's what they need because that's what feels comfortable for them. So in order to interact with that, you've got to find a way to stand out more, which has always kind of been like that, but it's much harder.
Do you mean, so if you're an average fit pro, like, or want to go online, they're just at the beginning, like, when you say they need to learn to stand out more, they need to be better marketers. It's harder to compete.
It's harder to compete, but also you have to be. I think that the days of like just posting and hoping, which have been gone for a long time, really, but they're not really there anymore. I think human connection is going to become more and more important from a coaching perspective because you need it in your coaching, but you're also going to need it in how you sell to them. because it's not like, again, an ad that pops up that brings you into a free app or download a phone with a free app on or whatever. Like you can't really compete with that at the moment. Like you can't, if you're trying to compete on that level, it's very, very difficult. You have to have something that allows you to stand out. And I think these days people are going to connect with human connection. Now, whether that's through you selling proximity to you, as in like you have a good personality, you start to stand out, you build a following, and you sell that proximity, which is normally very low priced normally, or you have a connection with somebody, you do it like it always has been done in business. You know, if you go network somewhere in 20, 30 years ago, you know, networking event, you go to some kind of seminar somewhere or whatever, and you meet people, you'd say hello to them, you shake their hands, you talk about what you do, how you can help each other, and then you make connections that way. That's really how sales has always worked. It's just we have social media, we have this online environment that allows us to do it with a different medium. It's just now that medium's a lot harder to play in. You have to work a lot harder to build those connections with people now, because trust's a little bit lower and like the attention spans are a lot lower. So I think that's going to be a big thing. And also in terms of some of the features and things that are happening now, like augmented technology, there's going to be a lot more in terms of advertising around that as well. We're going to have more advertising in our faces, I think, over the next 5-10 years. A lot more than what we used to. Like you'll see it in glasses already, like augmented technology, AR glasses are coming out that you can use. It won't be too long until most people's glasses will have that on. You'll walk down the street and an ad will pop up for the coffee shop that you walk past it. They're already looking at how that can work. So it's going to be a very different world within the next 5 years and 10 years. And you might be thinking, oh, actually, I'm talking 5 years and 10 years, but if you're running a business now, surely you're not in it for the short term, you're in it for the long haul. So you need to be thinking a little bit about what's going to happen. Because I promise you, as we talked about this before we jumped on here, it don't take long for 5 years to pass. It really don't. And there's going to be a lot of changes, I think.
Do you think it's going to affect, like, so when you're speaking like this, I'm like, I don't know, this is kind of how I was just thinking about it. Like, there's barriers to entries to markets. Mm-hmm. And one of the things about online coaching, certainly a decade ago, was the barrier to entry was quite low in some ways, although it wasn't. And I think it was, you know, like people just hadn't done it and all of that. But I put a post out the other day and I remember like someone inboxed me. Mm-hmm. I think someone that I knew them, or like they added me because I commented on someone's post or whatever, and like they added me, and then within 7 days they were a client. Mm-hmm. And like I now look back, and the reason was I think partly because I knew how to have conversations with people and then sell them. I would also say that experience for the guy, great experience by the way, he lost like 35 pounds, so it was like fantastic. I don't know if he'd been through that experience before, because he wouldn't have had lots of people messaging him and having conversations in inbox, because it wasn't that common. In fact, he used to get a lot of resistance from personal. I had resistance. I was like, Glenn, I can't just message people. Like, what are you talking about? It's for like to put pictures of my gran on, and so the barriers to entry were quite low. And I was showing someone this the other day. I looked at a post, as we would call a two-step, which back in the day when I first started with Glenn, like this was like right home. Yeah. Like this was like this worked. I put a post in UK PTs, and I think the post made me about 50k and maybe more, because 2 of them that came through that ended up actually working with me and then doing a year-long mastery with me. Mm-hmm. And I look back at it and it's terrible marketing. Mm-hmm. Like terrible. Now there's like, in all, there's about 450 comments, half of them me replying, but like people wanting this like 3 video sequence. And I'm like, that just would not work anymore. And I look back at that and I was like, I'd give myself a 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 for marketing competence. Mm-hmm. But back then it was clearly like 9 out of 10 because, well, no one else was doing it, number one. Yeah. And it got me lots of clients quite quickly. And I wonder, like, I'm in the gym. I'm not sure if AI is clearly going to have an effect on the gym, no doubt. I think probably as much the jabs as well, both positive and negative. Yeah. But like, I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at this whole new world that you're talking about. And I'm like, I ain't going to bother. I'm not going to do that. That just seems really complicated. I might as well just stay in the gym, because the gym's not necessarily going to change loads. And I wonder, like the barrier to entry for competing as a marketer online, is much higher now.
Yeah, it's much higher. And I think part of this, I mean, there's a couple of things to really unpack a little bit there. One, the actual process you went through there does still work to an extent and in principle. So we should really talk about that. But it's just
It does,
how you
but
get
not
into
with
it, how you
shit
start it.
copy, not with terrible copy that
No,
was
no,
really
not with
very
that kind
good.
of approach. The
That
principle still
wasn't terrible,
works.
by the way. It wasn't terrible.
No,
It
it
was
wasn't
just
terrible.
probably
Yeah.
slightly over promising. But go
Yeah,
on.
I mean that happens, doesn't it? Like a lot. That's what a lot of marketeers do sometimes. But I think the first thing is the barrier entry is still low. I mean, from a financial perspective, it's very easy to get into. Like you can just decide you want to do it, and you can do it like that.
I
That's
guess what I
literally
mean by barrier to entry, I mean being able to compete with
all to
marketing,
actually complete.
get
Yeah,
clients that don't know who you are,
yeah,
and go from not knowing you who you are to buying your program.
yeah,
There's just take. I mean, I don't know if you. It just takes a lot longer.
yeah. I actually read. You know the whole. I think Google came up with originally. It was this whole like 7 voice
7 hours.
content type thing. There's a. I read something the other day. There was a guy saying he'd been looking at the data, and it's not a huge database, but it's quite a big one. And he was saying it's now 13 points of contact, which you think that's like almost double the amount of connection you need before you actually get to point of sale. So without a doubt, the data is pointing towards the fact it is harder to make a sale because more connection is required in order to go and do that. So more trust needs to be built and so on. So I think that's definitely a thing. But that again is still not a problem. I think the actual lower barrier to entry generally is what causes the problem. I think a lot of people move into online because they're doing stuff in the gym. They hit the ceiling for a number of different reasons, and they go, right, I need to do something else, so they move online. And there's this, for some reason, there was this thing where, oh, online seems easy, and that's because you could at one point post this. There was less noise, there was less competition, and so on. And I think that's half the battle because they're going into it not really like a business person. And this is no like disrespect to PTs or anything like that. I think most PTs, especially in the UK, they're not really, they don't become a PT because they want to own a business. They become a PT because they want to help people, coach people, whatever. And they're kind of forced into running a business. Now, to run a business in the gym, as in rent somewhere, comparatively is very easy compared to online and running most other businesses. Low barrier to entry financially, you pay a little bit of rent. And in reality, all your marketing is done by the gym. You've got a bunch of people that are brought to you by somebody else in a room that want to get fit and healthier. And all you've got to do really is just get up off your arse and have a few conversations with people. And as long as you know a little bit about what you're doing, you can convert them into paying clients. Now, online, you're taking control of all of that. So you've got to still find a way of marketing. And I think that's half the problem with it. And I think the other side of it as well is a lot of people, when they go online, become online trainers, they think that they have an online business, and that means that everything they have to do is online. And I always say this to everyone we work with now. So just remember that what you sell is an online service. That's it. Your service is online. Why do you think the only way to sell it is online? And that's something a lot of
Tell me about
people.
that, go on, because that's a new thought. I've not heard that from you before.
So it's if you think about sales, and I did it on purpose to bring you back to what you talked about a minute ago about how you did it. There you go. You see. So you know you was talking about your approach. You put your two-step up. They got engaged. You had conversations with them, and then you also said around before that you mentioned about a guy that you think was a friend of a friend who said, "Oh, come meet somebody." You messaged them, you did that, and you sold them. 7 days later. That is business 101. That's been around for hundreds of years. Business really is just, and sales is just about relationships, isn't it? It's about creating a relationship with somebody to build up some trust, to find out what their need is, and then create a solution between what their problem is and how you can fix it. That's literally what sales is. And you do that by building relationships. So what you've done there with that particular guy you mentioned is somebody will come along, somebody they trust has said, oh, I know a guy that can help you with this because they've seen you somewhere. You've maybe been to an event, you posted about it, you've been in the gym, you've done whatever it is. So they've seen you somewhere because you're doing something. They said, oh, I trust this guy. So by definition, this other guy goes, oh, well, if my friend trusts him, it doesn't matter whether they've invested in you or not, whether they work with you or not, they've just said you trust him. So by trust through association, they have a conversation with you. So you're already on a good foot. And then really, you've got your own skills. You know how people work. You do know how to sell. So you've got those skills that allow you to then convert that person who already has a level of trust with you. And business is the same. Like it always has been, as in really you've just got to build up that trust. And how you do that doesn't really matter. So the service that you're offering, for example, is an online service. But I can sell that online service by going to a networking event. I can go and do a talk at a seminar. I can go to the local coffee shop. I can go to a cinema. I can go and do whatever I need to go and do to go and sell it. So that form of business hasn't really changed. And if you look at it from an online coaching perspective, now I mentioned earlier, you've got these big companies that are out there that are going to be putting more of this AI trainer style approach into their products. To compete with that, you compete with that online. And yes, you should still post online, you should still comment, you should still do outreach, ads are still there to be used if they're all used correctly and done properly. But you can still go and do these other things. You can go to local networking events. You can always remember that your next door neighbor can be your next online client. And just how you would sell in the gym is the same way you can kind of sell online too. You're just delivering that service to them in an online environment. And for most people that want to become coaches and, like I say, want to stand out in this AI world, it's going to be about that relationship that you have with that client. And that's how you're going to sell it as well. So if you want to build a business that, and again, this is again what I've seen, most trainers I speak to don't want to build, think they do because that's what they market to, like 30, 40, 50K a month businesses. Most of them want to earn enough money to pay their bills, pay off their mortgage, have a
Let
good
me challenge you there, Ash.
Yeah.
Do you think it's just they can't?
Well, they can't do that.
They
Honestly,
don't have the competence.
yeah, I think sometimes is they don't. Some don't want to, because I think the key thing around any business is to make sure you build that business around the lifestyle and the things that you want. Otherwise, what's the point? Like, there's no point going through the stress, the hassle, the heartache to do it. Like, it's nothing
Well, no,
easy.
the reason I'm saying is, having done that,
Yeah.
like, it's hard and
Yeah,
it
it's
takes a
hard
long
work.
time. Like, it's hard. It's not, building a very big business is very difficult.
Yeah.
And I don't know if a lot of people will want to, I don't know, do what it takes. It seems like a bit dickish, but I think it was hard. It was easier through COVID. Like,
Oh,
we rode
yeah.
the wave.
Yeah.
I do think that sometimes it's also the difficulty level of what it takes to be able to do that is actually out of reach of a lot of people. And they also just, it's not they can't be bothered. It's just like, I don't want that kind of stress in my life. I don't want that sort of risk. Like,
No.
I'd like to do this, but by the way, I do agree with you at the same time as well. I think that we've gone a little bit of a sort of full circle where also marketers ruin everything, as Gary Vaynerchuk says.
Yeah, they do.
And it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to buy someone's program, and I'm not saying I've not said stuff. I'm going to buy them, and then the reality hits you, and like, oh my god, this is hard.
Yeah.
And then it's just, yeah, I'll go to the gym, and do you know what? I'd like to have a nice lifestyle business. I think, like, just as a caveat, I think seeing you and your evolution over the last sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, that seemed to me like there was a part where it was like a big aim to scale to. I think we even had a conversation about like scaling to big numbers.
Yeah.
And then it seems like, I don't know, I've seen more of your sort of, actually, you know what, I want a business that works for me and I love my lifestyle and I want to be able to do all the cool things. And maybe I don't want to, I don't know, I still think you work like 10, 12-hour days sometimes.
Oh, God, yeah. Bloody hell. It's
It's just like, I don't want to have a big team of 20 people that I have to deal with.
I mean, yeah, I think that's definitely. But there's at one point where I wanted to push this business particularly further. Like, I've had staff and teams before in this business and in previous businesses, and I think there's a lot of stress. It's a different level of stress. Like, there's always stress, there's always pressure, there's always time. It's just playing at different levels, and the outcomes that we're getting from that was not really allowing me to do the things I want to do. And I realised that money wasn't necessarily the restricting factor for me. It was time. And I don't mean time as in like freeing my time to go and do something. I mean this time. Like, my ability to be able to go and not necessarily switch off, because as any person that ever run a business, you never really switch off truly. But it's your ability to be present in a particular moment. And I was finding I was traveling places, like going places, was buying nice things, but I wasn't really present enough to enjoy it properly. And I realized that wasn't really caused by necessarily like the business. It was caused by doing too much. It was caused by taking the business to a place where I thought I needed it to go to give me what I wanted. And in order for me to get past that, I'd have to do more of that at a risk that it might not work. Or I could get the outcome that I wanted with making less from a turnover perspective, but increase my profits because my overheads are a lot lower that way. So I can maintain the same kind of profits I'm doing now with less stress. Yeah, I do a bit more work myself, but I have autonomy over it. I can choose when I want to work, choose when I want to go and do something. And that allows me to be more present. So I was able to live the lifestyle that I wanted by making these kind of changes and shifting how the business approaches at things. And I think that was only just through my own experience of doing something. And some people don't. Some people go, yeah, I want this. I love that and thrive in that environment. Like, I'm just not one of them. I just didn't enjoy it. I just don't enjoy it. So like, for me, that's different. But we have people we work with who do enjoy that and thrive in that environment. We have people that we speak to that think they do, but when they see the work involved, as you mentioned, they're like, I don't really want that. And in reality, when you look at it, most people don't need it. And I think for a lot of coaches, like, you can earn a six-figure, you can have a six-figure profitable business without having to do all this other crazy stuff. You can do that by literally not even going online if you wanted to. You could sell an online service and still sell that in any other way you wanted to. Like, and I don't mean this in a big-headed way or anything like that, but like, to hit that, what's a six-figure business? Say 100 grand a year, it's like what, 8 grand a month, something like that, turnover-ish, 800, 10 grand a month turnover. Then like, to hit that, you don't have to go crazy. You don't need a lot of clients. You don't need to go over the top with everything. Like, you can have one key way of making sales, one key way of bringing leads in, and bring those leads in and just do a really good job at looking after them and retaining them for the long term, because you have that human connection, and you'll be fine. You literally will be, and you won't have to compete with all these other things that are going on.
Do you know, like people would be surprised that when you have £1 million coming into your business a year, how much of it you actually get to keep.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not as much as you might think. I can tell you
No,
that.
definitely
I can
not.
tell you that. Like I mean, when we got to that stage, it was like there wasn't any, and maybe this was a lesson for the future. It was like there wasn't any, right, let's consolidate this, like, right, what's next? Which I think was a gift, because we would never have got to that place if we hadn't said that 5 other times. And it's like, we were just like, right, what's next? And literally the narrative was like, right, what do we need to do to get to 8? This was like waking up the day after hitting your first 7 figures and then going, right, the next day, it's like, what do we need to do to get to 8? And it's like, dude, like, chill out. Like, just how about, what do we need to do to stay at 7 and actually keep some more of the money? I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
terrible, but it's not as, and I've seen it in the industry, and maybe like in the top levels of the industry, of a lot of people. Honestly, I think it's also economics as well that has stopped people allowing to do, like, they can't do.
There's always ceilings in every
It
industry.
wasn't just, and what I mean by that is, I think that the sort of the ability to have a sort of, and by the way, there's still definitely people that are doing this for sure, making, multiple 7 figures from a sales team, a marketing team,
Yeah.
all of that high ticket stuff, like, and that size. But I do think there's a lot of people that it became very, we rolled things back with that business before some of, when I say before, I saw other people like start to actually be in serious problems, not because we were clever, because actually we were just being a bit greedy. And I think there's a lot of people that were doing like serious big money, and maybe they do like a quarter of what they used to do. And the difference is, like, you running a team, like running a business with, 6-figure costs at the beginning of the year is just harder than it was. I mean, it's like we had big cost base.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, you have to remember, like, for anyone watching this who's thinking about doing that, don't let this like put you off or anything. Like, if that's what you want to do, you've got the drive to go and do it, then go and do it. But just keep an eye on your costs, and just understand that, like, the staff you employ will never be you. They never care about your business like you do. They never love the business like you do. And they'll never work as hard as you do. Whatever you do, it won't matter. And they'll also be human, as in they'll make mistakes. They'll not want to work. They'll have sick days and whatever. And you also have to remember as well that whatever happens, that 100 grand a month staff cost that you're on about there, you're paying that regardless. That's going out your pocket, because you've got to pay those people. Like, you've got to pay for their mortgages. You've got to pay for their healthcare. You've got to pay for their whatever. That becomes your responsibility to go and do. And normally at the end of the day, and I always used to say this all the time, like, my staff get paid more than what I do. Like, if you actually add it all up, like, that's how much it is. You're giving so much of it away. Again, nothing wrong with that. And that's the breadbone, that's the backbone of many big successful businesses. But I think the key thing is, for most online coaches, they need to ask themselves, do you actually want that? Or do you actually want to deliver something that means to you that you can bring you can bring a decent amount of income in, you can retire from it quite comfortably, you can pay all the bills you need to go and pay, you can travel around and spend time with your family if that's what you want to go and do. Like, most people, that's what they kind of want.
Have you found that what people's ask or expectations is different now than it was 5, 6 years ago? Are you getting less people coming just being like slightly I used to have calls with people and I'm like, how much do you want to make? And they're like, I want to make 100 grand a month. I was like, okay, cool.
Okay.
All right. And just curious, like, what are you doing at the moment? And they're like, oh no, I'm started. And I'm like, okay. And like, I'm on a call with someone. Obviously, I'm a salesperson. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to tell this person that this isn't possible. But I also like, I'm like, but someone else might tell them it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like they might be on a call with someone else and like, yeah, that's cool. We can do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably not. Look, maybe it did. Maybe it will. Maybe I'm wrong to say, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. But I always used to. Or like, do you mind if? And I'm like, the likelihood of that. Look, I love the ambition, but it's probably going to take a little bit longer than 90 days. Like, do you find that people are less? And if I say delirious, I actually don't think it's the person's fault. It's
No, I
marketers.
just think
They're
it's marketers.
they're
Yeah.
fuckers, and they are good at what they do. Do you find you get less of that these days?
Yeah, purely through marketing, just because I market to those people. If I'm perfectly honest now, like I'll try and talk and do things to try and attract that kind of person in because they're the kind of people I really enjoy working with. Like I do enjoy working with bigger
More
businesses.
steady, kind of not being ridiculous.
Yeah, not being ridiculous with it. And yeah, we have people that come along and they'll ask for more. And I'm always open and honest with them with it. I'll always say like, look, it's possible, but understand what's involved in doing that. And I think one of the most important things to remember with those kind of businesses, if you just look at the stats, most businesses do fail. It's literally as simple as that. Across any industry, and it's hard work. And if it wasn't, everyone would literally be doing it. I think you have to accept that you have to put a lot of hard work in. And as you mentioned, marketeers do their job very well at making you believe you can earn a certain amount in a certain small amount of time. And I'll be honest with you, in reality, if you want to put the work in and you want to have a bit more of a hustle approach, you can earn quite a lot of money in 90 days if you've got the right backing. If you've done a bit of PTing before, if you really want to do the right stuff and you don't mind just being all out hustling for 90 days, you can earn a decent amount of money. But to do that sustainably over 10 years, 20 years, and have enough so it contributes towards pensions and to support you for the rest of your life, that's not a 90-day program. It's just not. Like you can't. You need to understand what business takes. Like throughout most businesses, most industries, no one makes a lot of money in 90 days. I mean, like I'll take my. I think we've talked about it before. So my family owns a manufacturing business. So if we look at that one, most people in the online fitness industry go, I want to earn X amount of money and this much profit within 90 days. Like, okay, but that business, let's for example, there's nearly £1 million worth of investment that goes into it, and it took 3 years to even break into profit. That's most business. Most business is risk. There's time. There's like literally you have to work at it and put the effort into it. There's stress in there, and I think you have to accept that. And I think if you can accept that and apply that same mentality to whether you do something online, you can be very successful relatively quickly because your overheads are less. That you can get into profit a lot more quickly, but you just still have to do the work. You still got to put the work in. You still got to do it, and you still have to do things you maybe don't enjoy doing. You still have to do things that maybe feel uncomfortable, especially in the first instance. And you just have to kind of get over that and get on with it. But yeah, generally speaking, we're again through design really we're attracting more people that are less in terms of the ambition for those targets and trying to get people where they want to have a day-to-day life. So much to the point like where now my biggest change we've made in terms of how we deliver to people is through forcing execution. One of the most common things we get asked is like, Ash, I just want someone to tell me what to do. I just want to get up in the morning and know what to do. But like for me, from a business perspective, I'm like, well, actually, that's my job to figure out what I need to go and do and everything like that. So now we're actually creating tools that allow people to execute, so they can literally go up in the morning, open this app up we've built, and they go, that's what I've got to do.
Well, you're gonna have to tell me about this, Ash, because this is something I'm interested in hearing. By the way, somewhat I do like where you're going, but sometimes when people say that, I'm like, isn't that a job?
Yeah.
Isn't that having a boss? Isn't that
Yeah.
having a boss? But I also know that sometimes I'm like, oh bloody hell, for me it's now not, oh bloody hell, what am I meant to be doing today? It's like there's a version of me that exists on a Sunday evening and on each morning and each evening that is that version that's like, right, here's what's going to be done.
Yeah.
And during the day there's a version of me which is just like, I'm just like doing, but I have to block things. I have to be that version, like the boss who's structured and telling me the version that gets distracted
Yeah.
during the week what to do. So I do feel it when I'm like sometimes like I never said someone just tell me what to do, but I'm like, oh, what am I meant to be doing today? Like I think I'm
Yeah.
just watching too much
Uh,
YouTube and just getting distracted.
Yeah, and that's more likely what most people say, like, what do I need to go and do today? Or like, I wish someone could just tell me what to do. And you're right, it is like a job. I mean, I do say that to them, that is literally what a job is, and that's not what you're doing. But as I mentioned earlier, we talk about these leaner style businesses where I think they're the ones that are going to do well. A lot of the time, you are going to be both employee and boss at the same time. And it's going to sound really weird and almost like, I don't know, like a multiple personality type thing here. But like for me, I have two versions of me. I have boss Ash and employee Ash, and I separate my days around that. So like I can actually
Are
set
you
tasks for me.
conscious of this, Ash? Are you actually doing this consciously?
Yeah, I'm actually consciously doing this now,
Okay.
which gave me the idea for what I'll talk about in a second. But like, so the idea is I'll purposely assign time to plan and decide how that's going to work. And yeah, I have got assistants and stuff that help me with some stuff now, but you can do this without assistants. So some things I'll assign for them to do, some things I'll assign for me to go and do, and then I'd literally take a purposeful break between the two, so they're completely separate, like going for a walk or something. And then the next bit is actioning that particular thing, or it might be that I've scheduled it for a different day or whatever. But either way, I plan that time in, so I have employee time and boss time, if you like, and that way it helps me execute stuff. So like I'm being held accountable to myself effectively for different times. And that's kind of worked for me. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to try and do, because otherwise you're being pulled from kind of pillar to post. But as I was doing that, the other thing I noticed is that if I'm having to go into those days I'm doing something, if I don't know what I've got to go and do, I've got to sit there and think in that morning, what I need to go and get done today. And the problem with that is decision fatigue. Have you ever seen I forgot the word the film's called? It's about the big Wall Street crash. It's got Kevin Spacey in it, Jeremy Irons and Demi Moore and all that kind of stuff. And I can't remember what the film's
Margin
called.
call. No.
Margin Call, yeah. So there's Margin Call, that's the one. And there's a scene in there where he turns around, Jeremy Irons turns around and goes, "Do you know why I'm paid the big bucks? It's because I've only got to make one decision, and that decision has a big impact on something." And the idea is his entire team, when you think about it, his entire team, everything he's done, like, is taken away from him. So he has to worry about making one really big important decision. And if he made lots of different decisions throughout the day, he'll be so knackered in his own head that he won't make that decision right. And I think that's a big issue for small businesses or like solopreneurs, is because we're making so many different decisions throughout the day. It makes it difficult for us to focus and difficult to decide on what are the really important decisions to make. So what I wanted to try and do is find a way to take all the things that you know as a business owner that you have to do every single day that moves your business forward, and separate them up into things that are output things, so stuff that's actually going to move your business forward in terms of revenue and sales, because without revenue you're screwed. And then the rest of it is split into like admin, like these are admin things I do, or input, so like checking emails and social media, all that kind of stuff. And do it so that you don't think, you just open it up and it says, right, this is what I've got to do. Click on this. It literally takes you step by step. Do this, do this, do this. So you're no longer thinking about what to do. You're just going through these rounds, if you like. I call them daily rounds that you just go through, and you tick them off, and within half an hour, whatever it is, depending on how many they are, those key things, those tasks that, at the expense of everything else, will push your business forward. Like those tasks are ticked off and done. So if you do them, you're at least 1% close to where you want to get to,
What
but you
would
haven't.
be examples of that?
So it might be, for example, that I don't know. Let's say if you're doing outreach as a way of, because we talked a bit about outreach earlier, doing the 2 steps and stuff like that. So let's say outreach is one of your ways of creating sales. So if that becomes a really important thing you have to do, and it's something you can control. I need to speak to 10, 20 people or whatever today. So your first daily round is to do outreach for 20 people. That's one daily round. So you open that up, nothing else happens, no distractions. You don't have your phone with you. You just do it on your computer, keep everything separate. And that's all you do, because that's what you've told yourself to go and do. That's what you go and do. Once it's done, you tick it off, and then you move on to the next one. And the next one might be, okay, I need to go and follow up with my leads from beforehand. So again, don't say I'm going to follow up with every lead, because you might not have time to go and do that. You might say, right, today I'm going to follow up with at least 10 leads. So you put 10 on, and you say, right, I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to send my follow-ups on that one. Next one might be, okay, I need to go and post this social piece of content. So you've got your content planned out already, because you've got your planning time, you've done that already. So you go, right, I'm going to go and post that and put it on there. The next thing might be, I'm going to spend 5 minutes going through this account, this account, this account. We call them follow, like, engage accounts, for example. where there are accounts that serve the same audience, so you might go through that. And it's those kind of, I'm just giving it this example because we've talked a little bit about that, but you can have different ones. You can have ones around paid advertising, you can have one just about, however you want to do it, phone calls, if that's what you want to do. So they're the kind of things you want to put in there. And then once you've done all your output ones, so these are things that actually help you generate money and revenue for your business, then you'll move on to what I call input ones. So they're going to be things that are returns of service delivery. So like from a coaching perspective, that might be checking on your client messages. It might be to give some feedback to somebody or to check feedback or whatever it is, and then you'd schedule those things in. And the reason I do that second, is because that's going to require you cognitive to think whilst you're doing it. So what you don't want to do is tire yourself out cognitively whilst you're doing all the sales and stuff that actually makes your business run. You want to do that second, because like you don't want to have any distractions. You don't want to be thinking. You don't want to be tired. You want to be doing your best possible at getting those sales in. So all your energy needs to be on that. And then you can put your energy into being reactive to emails, reactive to client messages, reactive to whatever, and always block that off. Because if you don't block it off, you'll never stop doing it. So block it off, and then that way your daily rounds is done. And within like the space of a couple of hours, in the morning or wherever you're going to do it, you've done enough to look after your clients or your customers to make sure they're happy, and you've done enough to make sure that you're doing things that's going to start driving revenue into your business. And everything else left for the day is whatever else you need to get done. Any SOP stuff you want to do, new stuff you're building, go and have a cup of tea, whatever it is, basically. Yeah.
Do you find these days that more of your clients are newer to online, or they've been doing it for a while and not necessarily making it work, or they've been doing it for a while making it work, or just want to make it better?
The last two, more than anything else. We get a few people still new online, like they'll come on and say, I want to move online or whatever. But the majority of our clients, again, this is probably more for our remarks.
That's who you're speaking to?
Yeah, that's who we're speaking to more in reality. So I can't say that's what the industry is. It's just more who we're speaking to. But I'll say most of our clients these days are kind of 40 plus. They're people that have been trainers for quite a long time or in person. Or if they haven't and they're new to online, they normally have been in an industry for a long time that involves them being with people. There's a reason they're moving online. It's very rare they're kind of brand new out of college or uni or whatever. They've got some kind of experience with people especially, and then they want to start doing things like either online or they're 40 plus, they've been doing it online for a while, they're just a bit lost in terms of what they need to do each day or how to really take it somewhere. They might have a handful of clients already. Some might not. They've been trying for a while and not really got to that point. They're the kind of people we tend to see these days. Ones that don't really like tech that much, don't really understand what systems to have in place. And what I try and do these days is focus more on not saying, like, I've never really been like this, like promise X amount of money or promise this. Like, to me, that's, can I swear on this? It's all right. That's going to swear anyway. So I think most of that sort of bullshit. I think nobody in reality can promise X amount of money for something, because it's got absolutely nothing to do with the mentor, the business coach, or anything that you're working with. It's down to the individual that runs that business, getting their arse out of bed in the morning and doing the things that matter. That's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter what you say, I say, or anyone else says. So there's no reason in my mind that anybody should promise any money to anybody. It's a business. Most of them fail. It all comes down to the business owner doing the work. It's as simple as that. And I think the problem is, like, if they don't, and this is like the marketing thing I was on about earlier, that's why I think marketing causes the problem, because they have these expectations and whatever. So they shouldn't be promised, and we don't do that. So all I promise to people is, like, we will help you tidy your systems up so that every day you know what you need to go and do each day. And if you do these things, they will compound over time, and just stick to the process of going to do it. Like, if these things are bothering you, like you're struggling to spend time with family because you're too busy following up with clients and you're being reactive, we'll help build you better systems and processes to deal with that. If you're spending so much time coaching your clients and adjusting programs and adapting stuff, we'll look at who you're working with, we'll build you better systems and processes for doing that. And to me, that's what really I think most coaches and business coaches should be doing. It's about building the systems to allow them to go and get the results. And as long as they put the work in and do the work, there's a higher chance they're going to hit the targets they want to go and hit. You can't promise it them because it's a business. And most, as we talked about already, most businesses do fail. But you've got a better chance of not failing if you have these systems and processes in place and you get them done, because it will give you the lifestyle you want. You'll be more motivated to go and do stuff, and you'll actually probably enjoy the process a little bit more because you're not worrying about stuff. You're not overthinking about stuff. You're just getting the stuff done. So that's really why I think that's why we attract those kind of people, because the people that are already a bit tired, a bit worn out, a bit like, I've had enough of doing this. There's got to be a better way of doing it. And we can say, well, we can build something around you and what you want, and then just go and implement that. And if you do that, you've got a much higher chance of being successful. And I think that's what people should be focused on, and what I think people should be promising people.
Are you enjoying business more?
You what? Sorry.
Are you enjoying business more these days?
I am now, yeah. I think there was a period a few years back where I wasn't particularly. And don't get me wrong, like business is stressful. Whatever happens, there's always something going on, and like there always is. And there's always times where, like, for God's sake, I just go and work at McDonald's would be much easier. I think everybody goes through that at some point, and they probably go through that most weeks for like 10 seconds or so in their own minds. But normally they're just like little reactions to certain things that are happening, like maybe a client said something, or like you just think, oh, why can't you just get this, or why is this not working properly or something. That's most of the time that causes those. But generally speaking, like I'm enjoying it much more now because I get to do the things I want to do more. I get to help the people I want to help more.
And was that a conscious choice then, like changing your marketing to like pull different people in, or certain? Because I've done it as well. Like Like I'm a lot more, after banging on about niche to people for however long.
Yeah,
I'm a bit like, okay, now I'm really like my niche is extended to like big. Like we used to say, like you had to be in the industry for 2 to 3 years, and I'm like, me at 2 to 3 years in the industry, like I'm still a fucking
not a
idiot.
lot.
Now it's like 5 years, 10 years, like minimum. Like, and to be honest, a lot of our clients have been in for, which does, by the way, bring its own challenges as well. Like if it's something that you've been in this in-person game for like 5, 10 years and you haven't done the online, there's often reasons why. So, there's a little bit of tension there.
Yeah,
Heck, for sure.
yeah,
But we got a lot, I got a lot stronger. Like it's not even the boundaries, but this is who I want to speak to. Like for me, the downside was I used to really like working with like young coaches in their 20s, but it was hit and miss a lot of the time. Like some of them were just awesome. And I think it was also because when they go online, I want to sell to this type of person, which happens to be like some CEO who's in his 40s. And I'm like, yeah, like you got to have a lot about you to be 20 and convince someone that you're the right. By the way, there are people that can do it. I wouldn't. I was just a fucking idiot when I was 22. So like, and now it's like, there was all those down. I really liked some of the guys we worked with, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna change that. Like, did you do it consciously then?
yeah. It was a conscious choice, probably back in maybe probably a bit earlier than that. Maybe around April-ish, 24, maybe. I think it would have been. Started making a kind of more conscious effort of where I want to change things, where I want to adapt stuff, what we want the business to be like, where I want to take it to, that kind of thing. Even like our business model has changed completely in terms of what we offer. Like we still do the done for you stuff, and like custom build stuff and things like that. But like we have like subscription based models that's a more easy accessible for people to get involved with now. So like there's not as big a investment to get into it, because again we don't necessarily need to, because I say the way we can support people, because it's about the systems, about the processes. I'm not here to be like someone's psychotherapist or whatever. Like I'm just, this is your system. Like this fits what you want to go and do. If you whine about the fact you don't want to do the work, well, go speak to someone else about it, because like you've got to just do the stuff. And I think because of that, and because of how we're building stuff, and because again the advancements in technology, we're able to do things much quicker, much more efficiently, and support people in a much more quicker and efficient way. And one of my, as much as probably not the best business belief, and if you asked me this 5 years ago when we was looking at building a bigger business, I'd be like, cool, all these things here really reduce our overheads, so we'll do our price increase anyway and increase the amount of profit we're going to get. But now, because I've leaned out the business as such, I can be making the same amount of profit without having to go and do that. So these savings that we made, the technological savings, the systems that we put in place that allows us to do this, means we can now offer something at a much more affordable and reasonable price at an entry level for people that are PTs that don't have a huge amount of money lying around all the time. To be honest with you, like it's not an easy industry across the board, where like we can give it something that's more affordable for them to come and get involved and get the help and support that they need to build those things and put them in place. And then if they do want something a bit more like done for them, then obviously they can do that. And that's obviously quite a bit more money because it's a lot more hands on, it takes up time and so on. But it's allowed us to change that model so it's much more suitable for the market we want to aim at. So yeah, I'm much happier and much enjoying it. It was a conscious decision, yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I've been fascinated by like it's interesting because you said I'm not the psychotherapist, and I'm like, like I always have enjoyed conversation with you because I was like when I was sitting there talking about like coaching when I first started doing this, I was like, yeah, but I'm not being a dick by the way, but I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but they don't know what coaching is, like, and I'm like, and I make such a big deal about like trying to persuade them, like it's not, you're not a strength and conditioning coach, it's not the same thing, and
Yeah.
that it's like that was always a conversation that I remember when we first started speaking. I was like, this guy actually knows what we're talking
Yeah.
about. Like, we're talking about the same thing. Like, we actually understand. Obviously, we built a very big business. You knew, but I have. But then also you've got that sort of in your locker, but then the systems part of you as well, which like the coaching thing was always like, yep, we could talk about this all day. And then like, you talk about systems and I'm like, oh man, my head hurts a little bit still. Like, and I
Yeah.
don't know how you manage to store both of those in your brain at the same time. Like, I think coaching, in the sense of like, you know, helping people understand their own things like limiting beliefs and helping them understand why they have resistance to do certain things and that. Like, I think there's a bit of artistry there. It's like
Yeah,
it's
of course,
quite a
yeah.
creative endeavor, whereas
Yeah.
the system seems quite logical to say the least.
Yeah.
Like, is that a fair comment? And how do you manage to have those both in your same brain?
Well, first of all, my background is obviously, as we know, is in coaching. It has been for a long time. I love coaching. I do like that side of it. In terms of business coaching, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I don't think that's necessarily. I want to try and keep them separate. But interesting enough, you mentioned about like it's logical, and systems are logical. There's logical processes, but I think for big business, they're very, very logical systems. It's like do this, follow this SOP, do whatever. For small businesses and individuals, I think coaching plays a much bigger impact, has a much bigger impact on the systems that you put in place, because you're building systems not for other people. And I think this happens a lot. People go, right, I need to build a system. They'll do a really detailed SOP, like they're going to sell their business in 10 years, or like they're going to hire a team of 10 people when it's just them, or maybe they're a VA or somewhere or something like that. So what they do is they overcomplicate it that way. They put all this detail in, and they just never read these SOPs again. They get completely lost. Where if I can use that coaching side of me, where I can understand people's behaviours, I can understand like how they approach something, how they think when they go to work, how they think when they wake up in the morning, and go, okay, what can I create? What systems can I put together to take that individual that I'm speaking to now to make sure that they actually implement the shit they need to implement in order to get the things they want to achieve? So to me, it's actually both. The calls I have with people, the conversations, even the onboarding process we put them through, it's all designed in a very specific way to ask very specific questions to try and figure out exactly what it is they want and what their day-to-day is like and where their actual barriers are, what's actually holding them back, what's actually stopping them. Because 90% of the time, just by changing the processes they go through and helping change their habits throughout the day, I can change how their business runs and how they think about their business just by changing those little things. And then the last 10%, well, you can take over that and deal with their barriers. Yeah, so like that's like to me, the coaching is still there because I'm still thinking about how to design their systems around them
I
and
guess it's
about
the
what
behavioural aspect of how
it's the
people
behaviour aspect. Yeah,
interact.
exactly. In fact, that daily rounds process we talked about there, even this, we built a software for it to help business, not just in the fitness industry, like across the board. So they can download a software now, and it's literally any business owner can have it, whether you run a massive business or a small business, it doesn't really
How
matter.
do you monetize that then? Is it just a like a
It's a small subscription, yeah. Yeah, it's a small subscription, small monthly subscription. It's like Canva price, it's not expensive. But it does one very simple job, and it's just to help you do the things for each day. And the way I describe it to people, it's a self-care app for your business. That's basically what it is. So where you might have self-care apps for you doing whatever for it all, it's literally that bit for your business. It just means your business looks after itself and gets the things done you need to do each day, and gamifies it so it becomes easy. Very, I don't really like this coin the word of it, but like I always call it ADHD style friendly, as in like the way you look at it, the way it interacts with you. It's designed to stop your brain from going to too many places. That's not bloated at all. To the point where when we first did the beta test for this to bring people in, we took 100 people on at a lower price to bring them into it to test it out. And we got feedback from the circuit, put this in, cut this, and I was like, nope. That just goes away from the actual main thing of it. I was like, you just got to trust
That's
me
a
on this.
conversation you've had for the last 10 years with clients, right?
Yeah, literally, nope. Not
Take
putting that in.
stuff out.
Yeah. A lot less is definitely more with some of this stuff, and I think that's where half the issues are. So to me, yeah, to answer your original question about the coaching and systems like that, I think that's how it's because I do use them both. I just use my coaching knowledge to decide how the system's going to be built for those individuals. That's how I keep both in my head.
What are you? We're good for time, right? What are you? What are you excited about going forward?
Oh, that's a good question. That is. I'm actually excited to see where the industry goes. I think there's, like I said, there's this shift that's going to come. I think it can be, and it will. Well, I think it will be a positive thing for the industry. I think we're going to have a much higher caliber of coaches out there. So I'm quite.
You mean like higher caliber because of basically like survival of the fittest, or I guess
Yeah,
you'd add in there as well, like people are going to be forced to step up their game a
yeah,
bit.
yeah. I think if they don't step up the game, they're going to struggle. I think that's going to be it's as simple as it is. Like we have booms all the time. Like there's always booms in industries, and there's booms. Those booms for the fitness industry. There's booms for the online industry. I think fitness is the big thing. It always will be a big thing. I think the likes of AI and GLP-1s and things like that are going to change the industry. I think if we do a good job, it will change it all for the positive, I think. But yeah, just by making people, like say, step up for it all. So I'm excited to go and see what that's going to be about. But to be honest with you, for me personally, I'm just excited about like these new things that we're doing, this new approach, like the new software we're bringing out, the way we rebuilding rebuilding the business model as such, and what we're including in our services to help people. Even we've just introduced something into the academy that we run. We've just built a completely new software called Coach OS, and it's again an implementation software. So it's not like it does have things like CRMs and
Ash,
stuff in
when
it,
you
but
say we've built it, like who's we? Like you, and
yeah,
I know you've got a little crew around you, but
yeah,
like
me
like you
mainly.
just literally go and build these things, this software. You can see how like I don't actually know how this works. Like you
So
just go and
literally,
build like a
that's what I
software.
was talking about earlier. In the past 3 months, I built about 6 different softwares using those AI things I talked about, those tools that are now on the market, making money doing different things. And like we just done one recently, which is now for all our clients, which is literally an implementation software. And its job is to you literally turn onto it from a revenue perspective, and it will tell you what to do for your revenue for your business based on the information that's input into it. So it's not like a CRM as such or anything like that. Like there's stuff in there for that, but it's designed to help you think in a certain way for small businesses. So where people always say like, oh, can we connect this to it and have these automations? Like, nope, we don't want that, because I want you thinking about it. I want you in that process, going through that process. Even like at the end of the day, there's a roundup in it where it will literally, you press the button and at the end of the day, you put in your total sales for the day, total costs, and it works like your P&L for you at the end of it all. They'll come and just connect it to my account, the account software. Like, nope, I want you paying attention to it. So like, put it in there. And then it's like as a shutdown process, so it allows you to switch off from the end of the day. Like, and the shutdown process is like designed from a mental perspective to help free up your mind a little bit. Like all that is designed like how to help you think in a certain way to help you get through the day easier. So you're not using as much decision fatigue, or you're not like stressed as much. It gives you a better balance throughout the day so you can do the things you need to get done. So again, that's what I'm really enjoying doing at the moment. Like taking those things I know about coaching, about people, and about how they react to stuff, and building it into these systems and processes and software that allows them to do things they never really thought they could do. Like there's nothing new that's being done in there at all. You know, it's no different to what you've taught before and things like that. It's just a different way of people implementing it, and it helps them like implement the stuff we need to get them to implement. So yeah, I'm really excited about that stuff, what we're doing at the moment. Excited about this new Coach OS. I said that's just come out like literally a week ago for our guys.
And we were talking
They
about before the call. You're getting old. You're
Yeah,
40.
well, yeah, that's coming up as well. My birthday in May, so I'm 40 in May, which I'm weirdly enough, like, so me and Sarah are both the same age, like ish, like she's 40 in September. She'll kill me for telling the world that, but she is. But like to me, she always hides something and always says she's 21, and I'm like, for me, age has never really been a thing for me. So it's just a form of measurement to measure how long I've been here. It has no impact on like how I live my life or anything. Maybe I get a bit slower as I get really old, but.
I mean, sometimes my memory goes a little bit. Not loads, but I've noticed the difference.
Hey,
But
yeah,
it takes me a couple of more. Yeah, mate, you watch.
I'll
You
start
watch.
forgetting things.
You watch. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Well, you
like,
say that. you say that, I am trying to do more things to stop that. Like one thing that has changed definitely around that is how I train, how I do things throughout the day, like my process in the morning. Like I'm reading more and things like that to try and be a bit more
I
cognitively.
mean, to be honest, it's probably that as well. Like a lot of the stuff you said is probably that, like, I'm not using the muscles in my brain that I used to use as much. I got into a little bit of a period of using like even just chat for my
Yeah.
content just a bit too much.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I've got to stop doing this because it's just making me not think about the thing.
Yeah.
So
You've got
like
to
I still use it. I still like write my copy and then put it in. And if
yeah.
my brain gets a little bit like, oh, I just don't know how to finish this, I'll put like two-thirds and go, what would you say to finish this? But I'm
Yeah.
just like tiny little bits, and and maybe that's why I'm just not using my muscle as much. But sometimes I'm like, it takes me like 10 seconds to think of what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah. That will change. The more you do it, you see, the more you kind of get used to it, and the more like,
Like, you're just hitting 40s. That's when you're going to realise. You're going to come
yeah,
back
that's
in
what it
5 years
is.
and go, Tim, mate, I know what you're talking about. I
Yeah,
can't.
no, who are
Start
you?
describing. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. More,
I
more.
met you.
What is it? More. Is it omega 3? Is that good for brain?
Omega, I think this omega 3, omega 6, can't remember which one it is.
I know.
Been a long time
Um,
since I've done stuff like
Ash, where can people find out about all the things you're doing? You'll get some show
that.
notes and all that jazz.
Cool. So, the best ways to find out more about us is just go to the website. That's the easiest thing. They go to ptdninja.com. All the stuff's on there.
And we can have a
If
link.
anyone's interested, you what? Sorry.
We'll have a link.
Yeah, we'll get a link for that. And then if they want to find out more about that kind of daily round stuff, they can go to Daily Rounds or daily-rounds.com. There's loads of stuff on there if that helps. I'm always around on socials, mainly Facebook and Instagram these days, but
Yeah, you're
um,
not on LinkedIn.
I am just now going onto LinkedIn. I've been on there for ages, but I don't
Just
really
got
do much
taken
on
off
it.
by all the slop.
Yeah, basically all the slot. But I am doing more on there now because, as I kind of mentioned, the daily round stuff that we're doing is more focused on businesses as a whole. So LinkedIn's the obvious place to go and do stuff. So I'm doing more on there now. And then we've got loads of stuff on YouTube as well. A lot around the stuff we talked about today, around like how people interact with stuff, the systems built around how you do things throughout the day and stuff like that. That's all on there too.
All right, so we'll put some links in. Ash, thank you so much. It was a good convo.
Cool. No worries. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much, mate.